guys? This is Corey.
This is Alan.
And welcome to CNA Films and Animation. Today we are going to be talking about a viewer requested film. This one, coming from 2009, I believe, Zack Snyder's Watchmen. So, Watchmen was directed by Zack Snyder, whose other films include Dawn of the Dead, 300, later made Sucker Punch and Man of Steel, and pretty much follows a group of superheroes. They are set. It's set in a kind of twisted world.
An alternate reality in 1985.
Yeah, 1985, and superheroes have been with us since the 40s. I think the original Watchmen got together in 1940, and then they kind of threw themselves into time, different places. Like, for instance, in the opening montage of the film, it kind of has different depictions of historical stuff and incorporating these superheroes.
Yeah.
So, for example, the famous sailor who kisses the woman at the in New York after World War II won. It's a woman superhero who comes up and kisses the nurse. JFK was assassinated by a superhero who you later find out is the comedian, and just all sorts of just various stuff that kind of twists the thing, reality, and makes it its own universe.
Yes.
And so Richard Nixon is president for a third term, and
isn't he president for life?
Or
something.
I don't know if it was life, but I mean he's on his third term.
Yeah, he made it where he can have more than 2 terms.
And so, he is he's president, and these superheroes, they are all due to this act that President Nixon enforced. All superheroes are to not enact in superhero stuff, so they are not allowed to do anything. So they're all retired. They are really kind of just kind of living day-to-day lives, doing different career stuff. Some are fully retired. Some, for instance, like Dr. Manhattan, still works with the government and does physics and nuclear stuff. The comedian, he was working with the government for a long time and eventually retired. And at the start of the film, the comedian, who was part of the original Watchmen, is murdered. And this forces the surviving Watchmen to be kind of on high alert because they, one of their own has been killed.
Yes. And
they think that, they could be potentially next. And so, you have Rorschach, who is this guy who has this mask that changes shapes and stuff, similar to a Rorschach test, like ink blots and all that.
Yeah.
Silk Spectre is the daughter of another superhero who was part of the original group. There was the comedian who was killed. He was part of the original group as well, and he was a dick.
Oh, that is an understatement.
We'll get into all the stuff about him in a moment, but he worked with the government. He was involved with Vietnam. He was very not necessarily politically active, but he was very much involved with the government, police, and all that. Dr. Manhattan was a
scientist who was working on the Manhattan Project,
mm-hmm.
and because of an accident, he gets blasted with
super radiation, basically,
yeah.
And he is now fully blue. He can see his entire past and his entire future. And
yeah.
he can manipulate objects, and
he can manipulate isn't it physics to a point?
To a point, yeah.
He's nearly in the series godlike.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people look up to him as like a god. Then there's Night Owl, who basically he's just kind of there. He's not really, nothing's really special about him. He took on the role from the original Night Owl, and honestly, there's nothing really special about him, I guess.
He's rich, he has a lot of gadgets, he's smart, but yeah, the character's just kind of there.
And then there's, I forgot the character's name, but this billionaire, he is super smart, he's lightning fast, and...
doesn't he have wings?
No, he doesn't.
Different guy has wings. Never mind.
That's the Night Owl.
No, it's not Night Owl.
Oh. You're thinking of the guy from the beginning?
Yeah, he
gets thrown in the asylum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't he gay or something too?
No.
There was one guy who was arrested outside of a gay bar. It's in the early ones.
There was two lesbians. One was a superhero that was killed.
Yeah.
And
they were both killed.
Yeah, they were both killed. It was the picture on the wall said lesbian whores.
Yeah. Very a lot of political stuff and
yeah.
Going on.
But anyway, and the film follows these remaining Watchmen trying to figure out, one, who killed the comedian, and two, what who's behind it, and
why is there a bigger problem?
Yeah, and it's all wrapped around the Russians, or was it the Cubans, something like that. They have nuclear weapons, and there's like a nuclear strike potentially happening any minute. So now that we got all the twisted, curvy plot out of the way, let's talk about the characters for a second. We mentioned the comedian, and there's a lot to be said with him.
The comedian, his character is despicable. There's no other way to put it. He would make the perfect bad guy, his story arc, with what is in this show. He has no problem killing people.
Yeah.
He assassinated JFK, for crying out loud. He was in Vietnam. He had a illegitimate child with a Vietnamese woman, and he killed her when she confronted him about their potential.
Yeah, in cold blood.
Yeah.
And
with no remorse.
He raped a woman, and there's a lot of twisted stuff with his character.
He raped a woman, then tried to rape her daughter later in life.
And he is a horrible person, yet he was absolutely fantastic at what he did.
Yes.
He was one of the best, marksmen. He was one of the best, pretty much everything there is. But he looked at life as a joke.
Yeah.
He said that humanity was basically a cruel and terrible place, and he made a joke of it by being the worst of them all.
Yes. As a person, he's horrible. One of the most despicable people you ever see. But as a character, it's a good character, especially for what they went for. For me, this is one of the more better parts of the film, with the comedian. How about Dr. Manhattan?
Okay. Dr. Manhattan is a very interesting character. He was human, and due to this accident with the Manhattan Project and everything, and he basically gets super radiation and turns into this blue radiated person, more or less. Due to all of this, he's become dehumanized.
Yeah, that was a big drawback for me. I can see him being dehumanized because he has all these powers.
And I mean, he can pretty much see the entire future of his existence and, his past and all that.
Yeah.
And, his mind is like in 20 different places all at once. He can he can make like 10 copies of himself. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there'll be like, 3 people having sex with a woman, and then 2 of them are working on this big experiment,
Yeah.
and another one's on Mars, and
Yeah, which that kind of drew me away from the film. It's like, okay, he can do all this. His character's hard to get behind for me.
Mhm.
On his powers, he has about every power. He can change stuff. He can do all this. He confronts like a biker gang in a bar at one point. Guy pulls out a shotgun. Well, he can do anything to stop the guy. Well, he just blows him to hell. Blows him up. Just he's a grease stain.
Yeah.
This is in a crowd of people everywhere. He can stop him anyway. He has all these powers. He does it. He makes the guy explode.
Yeah.
And his body parts just start like hanging off the ceiling. The guy goes from a human being to ground beef.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also kind of a weird element to him as well. Going back to the Vietnamese woman, Dr. Manhattan was with the comedian at the time when the woman confronted the comedian, and pretty much, the comedian kills her, and then, the comedian says to Dr. Manhattan, you're as much a part of this, you're as guilty as I am, because you could have turned the bullet into water, you could have turned the gun into a candy cane, you could have stopped the bullet or whatever, but you didn't, you let her get killed. So you're as much at fault of this as I am, which is true.
Yes. And the character Dr. Manhattan seems almost taken back by that at the time. Which, with all his intelligence, you would think he would, and his mind seeing all those different realities and whatnot, that he would know it. It was hard for me to get with the character, especially at the end. Next character, Rorschach. I like this character. I really did.
Probably the best character of the movie, by far. He honestly would make a good Batman, like the Batman persona. From what I've, in this film, he's very dark. He has a very troubled past.
Yeah.
He's come across stuff that has pretty much made him not feel guilty about any of his actions.
Yeah.
He is not afraid to punish someone. And sometimes he does it in a cruel way.
He's very brutal, can be cruel.
But he is tough as hell.
Yes, and he can hold his own, and he is not afraid to do what he has to.
Yeah. And, one of the best lines of the movie, I think, of the entire movie is, you want to say it?
Can I do it in the voice?
Sure.
Okay. The prison scene when, you want to set that for me?
Sure. So Rorschach gets thrown in prison for being framed for a murder, and he is thrown in with all the jailmates and everything. Inmates, yeah. And guys come up to him. He's thrown a lot of these guys in jail.
Yes.
And they come up to him. They're going to beat the living crap out of him, and pretty much he throws boiling grease on a guy.
On his face.
Yeah, and just he's melting basically right in front of his face, and then he says,
"You don't get it, do you? I'm not in here with you. You're in here with me."
But yeah, so he is a really cool character, very well done, and he has a really interesting backstory.
I think it's "I'm not locked in here with you" before it.
It's close enough.
Yeah, the backstory, especially how he became so brutal, that was hard to watch. I saw this in theaters way back in 2009. It was hard for me to watch, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in the motion comics it's even worse.
Yeah, I watched the motion comics as well, and from what I remember, the story of his worst encounter of being Rorschach was even more brutal than it was in the film. But it's a very hard scene to watch for sure.
Yeah.
The music with this movie, I thought really worked well. The opening montage has Bob Dylan playing, and then there's a bunch of 80s songs that play throughout that really set the tone for the film. Some are a little more uplifting and stuff, but I thought the soundtrack was very, very good for what it's worth. There's only one song that I have a complaint with, and that is the song that plays while Silk Spectre and Night Owl are having sex on this ship.
Yeah.
And it's Hallelujah, but nothing wrong with the song, but the guy who's singing it can't sing for crap, so it was distracting for me.
That whole scene didn't make much sense to me. It just, let's rescue people that have sex.
Oh, heat of the moment, I guess.
Yeah, they did it like twice. Scene right after the same scene, which, okay, they're having a erotic moment. All right. I don't know. We talked about the characters. The Night Owl.
Mm-hmm.
He's there. That's
I mean, he's a nice guy, I guess, but I mean, it's just there's not much depth to his character. Honestly, I couldn't really tell you much about him. Because I mean, he's there. He's very intelligent. Very. I don't know what, but he's very smart guy, but it's just not the strongest character.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's talk about anarchy point of view, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
where the only way that people will band together in more peace is if we have a common enemy,
Mm-hmm.
and a common enemy that does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
And only way to do that is to kill a whole bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that as true. The way human beings are, we'll find something to disagree with and kill each other over.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to end because of one event, no matter how catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say that, I'm talking bad about humanity, but I don't see it. It's just like, yeah, this is how a perfect world will be made. It just takes the death of about 1 billion people or more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it. Really, I don't. And all of them, all the superheroes going, yes, this is exactly what we ought to do. We'll just pretend this never happened. I was with Rorschach on that. He would not do it, and he said, you're going to have to kill me. I will tell the world otherwise. And Dr. Manhattan does.
Mm-hmm.
Makes him a grease spot.
Yeah.
Literally, that doesn't. That's what this is. He's not killing them. He's making them a grease stain. That's overkill. Mega kill. Combo. I don't see the point in it. This movie wasn't for me. I'll admit. I've never really seen much Watchmen stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure. I was looking forward to this movie when I first saw it,
Mm-hmm.
and I left it more confused than anything. The movie, I think, is a tad too long.
Yeah.
At points, if you're not familiar with Watchmen, it's a little boring and a little pulls away from the audience.
Okay.
But if you know Watchmen and stuff, it's probably either much better or much worse. I don't know. I can't.
Uh-huh.
So, how about you?
You know, you bring up a good point. The first time I saw this movie, I didn't like it. I agreed with you. You know, it's a very dry film at times. I mean, there's a lot of action and stuff, but I mean, it is a very slow-paced film. It's a little boring and very confusing. But I've seen it about 3 or 4 times since I first saw it, and you know, I finally get the story. I even watched the motion comic, which helped a lot with understanding the story and everything. And from what I saw with the motion comic, I do think that it follows the graphic novel pretty well, or at least the motion comic. I don't know how the motion comic is with the actual graphic novel, but I thought it followed very well, at least as close as they could in a 2-hour and 40-minute window. It is a little slow-paced, and it is very confusing, especially for first-time viewers, but there's a lot of positive stuff that I could see with this film. I really like the cinematography, the use of camera angles, and the use of slow motion in places was really well done. Sometimes that can be very irritating or too out of, like, what's the word? It takes away from the film, I guess, at times, and I think there was just enough to make it really work for me, and I don't know about you, how you feel about that, but
It's a give and take, really.
okay. But I mean, I do like this movie. I think there is a lot of interesting elements to it. There's a lot of interesting characters, and it's just kind of one of those movies that
You either really like it or you hate it, I think.
Yeah.
It's one of them.
So, you know, what would you give it out of 10?
It's tough because at some points it's not a bad movie. Other points it really draws away from the audience that doesn't know a whole lot about this world.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a little bit of background with it, you know some of the things that's going to go on or they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a better viewing pleasure, but I'd have to probably give it a 7.
7?
There are some parts that are really neat, and some of the characters are good,
Mm-hmm.
but
Okay.
how about you?
Yeah, you know, like I said, I really enjoy this film. It is my number 4 favorite comic book movie, if you watched our comic book movie list. And I mean, I do think it's a really well done film. It's one of the better Zack Snyder films I've seen. But anyway, overall, I'm going to give this probably an 8.7 out of 10. Can't quite get it up to 9, but you know, it's a solid action film, or solid superhero film. At least I think. So tell me, guys, have you seen Watchmen? If you have, what'd you think of it? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? You know, what were your thoughts on the film? What'd you think of the overall tones, the characters? You know, just anything that you can think of. Comment below. Let us know. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Be sure to like us on Facebook, check us out on Twitter. Don't forget to check out our other videos.
Yep. If you guys like this video, be sure to like, favorite, subscribe. If you have any movie suggestions or TV suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And as always, I'm Corey.
I'm Alan.
And we'll see you guys in the next one.
See you guys later.